Alright, howdy, my name's Trisha, and this video is for anyone who needs studying, note-taking tips. Really, I'm making this video for my future self so I can see how much my note-taking and studying habits have changed throughout the years. A little bit about myself, I'm going into my senior year of high school, finally. And I plan on applying to Texas A&M University in 2 days from today, so that's very exciting. Hey! So let's go ahead and get right on with the tips. So my first tip is, if you have your college classes, separate your assignments into 2 to 4 per day. Now this also depends on your major. If you're a STEM major, you're obviously going to have more assignments with labs. But if your major is kind of a pretty steady workload per class, separate those assignments into 2 to 4 per day, Monday through Thursday. This also depends on your deadlines. You're going to leave Fridays and your weekends for any catching up you have to do and studying. Then again, you don't want to put any of this off until the last minute. My second tip is to kind of rest on the weekends. Then again, STEM majors can't really do this. But if you have, once again, an easy workload, try to take the weekends off. Go to football games, go to events. Just live out your time. My biggest tip out of this entire video, which I'm getting to early, is to use a planner. This is the planner I use. It's a hardbound because I don't like how spirals tear. And what I like about it is on this column, it's just blank, and on this side it's to-do. So I can put my events on this side and my to-do list on this side. So it's kind of separated it out per day. And then the month calendars look like this, so they look pretty decent, and I color code my planner with the highlighter. Then again, you don't have to do this, you can use a pencil, but have a planner. And I prefer the hard copy because you can access it easier and it's easier to write out on. My next tip, use unique study methods. Don't just do like the regular flashcards, writing notes. Try to get just different note-taking methods. Try something new, see if it works. So some things I use are, I have a big whiteboard easel and I do whiteboard recall. So what I do is I write the statement or what I'm trying to memorize out on the whiteboard, and then I turn around and I say it out loud without looking at the whiteboard. I turn it back and I get it again, and I keep turning back until I memorize what I'm trying to say. And so I can recite this. This can be a lengthy process, but I promise once you get it by, it goes by a lot quicker. Flashcards, yeah, you can use flashcards. I personally love flashcards, the process of making them, but I never really go back to them. So if you're gonna make flashcards, make sure you go back to them. My next tip is to use the curve of forgetting, which I use this for my UIL. What you do is you take your day 0, which is the day you learn the material, and then you study it 2 days after, 4 days after, 1 week, 2 week, 1 month, and then 3 months. You won't necessarily get to the 3 month if your class is a semester long, so you might just want to go with the 1 month, but this helps retain your information, and it helps when you're doing active recall, which I will get to later. So my next tip is diagrams. If you don't know something, draw it out. This is especially helpful for sciences, especially anatomy. If you need to memorize a structure, say of the heart, draw it out. Draw it as many times as you like. Those don't have to be pretty, just draw them out. And then again, your notes. I like to have folders for my notes, which I will get to that next. But just kind of like read over your notes, practice memorizing. Another thing I don't have, which I got this from study_IGN from YouTube also. And what you do is you have a little notebook about this big, or you can take a piece of paper, and on the back side of a piece of paper you write the term, and on the other side, the front side of the spiral here, you would write the terms. So you would see the terms, be like, oh, this is this, and then you would flip it over and see if you got the definition correct. And so you don't have to use a big spiral like this, but it helps. Or you can just use a piece of paper, fold it in half, and practice folding it back and forth, back and forth. It's really up to you. My next tip is, if you're online learning, which thankfully I do not have to for now anyways, and if you find it hard to focus, have each class kind of be in a different spot. Now, if you work good in just one spot in your house, or you can't do this tip doesn't apply to you. But for example, I would do psychology here at my desk. I would do my government class in my bed. I would do English on the couch, I would do pharmacology at the kitchen table, different things like that. And it kind of gives you the feeling of you're going from a different setting, so it's like you're going from a different class. My next tip, make your notes creative but efficient. And at the end of this video or somewhere in between, I'll get to my supplies I use, which I'm a stationery store, believe me. But my notes, as you can see, as you flip through them, I use one color scheme, and they're very colorful, and I print out my pictures. And I also don't put too much per page, but I will also get to that later. Okay, and if you keep seeing me looking down, it's because I have a big notebook here. I'm kind of doing an impromptu video because, you know, those are fun. Excuse me. Okay, when studying for your exams, I would recommend getting just a small spiral like this, or it doesn't even have to be, it can be a paper 50-cent one, composition book, even staple a bunch of papers together, something per class, or not necessarily even per class. And that's going to be your practice problems. That's going to be your writing notes down. I wouldn't necessarily put dates in the notebook because you want those in your planner so you can easily go back to them so you don't have to keep flipping through. This notebook is supposed to be a complete mess. It's not your notes. It's not supposed to be neat. And you can also use this for rewriting content. If you like to rewrite your notes over and over and over again, if that helps you, I would say go for it. Okay, so to become a more efficient note taker, you want to avoid passive learning, which that's just like rewriting your notes, rereading your notes, things like that, unless you want to be actively interacting with the material. So the whiteboard recall, the flashcards, things like that. What I used to do, and this was very ineffective, I would read the book, I would type up an outline, and then I would write out the notes. And so what I was planning on doing was reading the book, typing out the notes, and in lecture, going and adding in things in the notes, and then writing the finals in after class. But that just doesn't really work anymore if your content isn't really lecture heavy. Now, if your content is lecture heavy, I would go ahead and do that. And you want to make sure you have one final set of notes after class. That's key to studying for exams. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to go from reading the textbook to comprehending in my brain, thinking about that text is about, and then writing. I'm trying to skip that outline step. Pretty simple tip, keep it clean, clutter-free study space. I mean, I'm gonna move the camera here. If you look at all this, you can see just how much of a mess that is. But to me, it's my own personal organized, so. Another big tip I have is to buy your textbooks as PDFs. And so let's say you can't print it, because if you do print it, it's cheaper. Let's say you can't print it. What I would do is I would download the Chegg app or whatever app my book was on the PDF. Excuse me. And then I would screenshot the page on my phone, and I would take all the screenshots of the chapter, email them to myself, copy and paste them onto a Word document and crop them so I just have the image, and then I would print that out. And I would use that, and then I would print that out, annotate it, read it, and then write my notes based off of that. This is going to be way cheaper in the long run. Even if you still have to buy the PDF and print it, it's still going to be cheaper than buying the hard copy. And then again, this is also if you need the number on the back of it. I don't remember what it's called, but. So now for my favorite section, I'm going to talk about how I personally take notes. So this is my art history notes. It says anatomy, but these are my art history notes from this last semester. And this is going to be backwards, but what you can see I can do is I have a title, and then each book usually has like 1.1, 1.2. That's what this big, thick line is, and then I write the title on it. And then I write an arrow, and then I put the vocabulary word or whatever the topic is I'm going to talk about, and then I make bullet points all the way down. I like to skip a line. It makes it neat. I don't fit as much on a page, but I personally prefer it this way because it has a clean outlook. And I add pictures where I want to, and I keep going. And here, they have like sub-chapters. So like in 5.1, you'll have a section called tombs. And so that's what I did here. This is the bold heading that I talked about. And then I just box that, underline it, whatever. I make it colorful. And I don't really do any fancy calligraphy or anything just because that takes forever. And if timelines are important in your notes, I would go ahead and do those as well. For example, here, this was for art history, so I had a lot of dates to memorize. So I went ahead and did all that. And then as you can see here, my book gave summaries at the end. And so what I would do is I would take notes on the summary. And so I would have a couple of key ideas here. This didn't really help me in the class because it was mainly based on quizzes, but if it works for you, go ahead. And so I didn't do this for art, but what I plan on doing is after I finish each chapter, I'm going to rip out the notes from this notebook and I'm going to put it in this spiral. And this is what's going to help me. And I print out my pictures if I need any. And then this is for my anatomy notes. And so as you can see here, I have a whole bunch. So for example, this is what it looks like, and you just keep going and keep going and keep going. And if you want me to do a note tour, I will. This is only chapter 1 through 6 out of 16 of anatomy. So as you can tell, sciences subjects are pretty dense. We had to memorize every single word, bolded word in the book. And that could be 200 terms per chapter. And the chapters were 13, 30, 50 pages. So we really had to make sure we understood the key material. And so what I do is I have one folder per class, and I'm taking 6 dual credits or regular classes this upcoming year. And so I have a folder per class, and I carry these around to class. And then after that, all I have is my planner, my bullet journal, my computer, my pencil pouch, and then my necessities like my wallet, phone, keys, things like that. So these are pretty basic. You want to make sure you have something that's light. And these spirals, for example, I had one for pre-cal last year that I carried around with me everywhere. It got all bent up and tore up by the end of the class, and I only used it one semester. So these folders are more durable, and if you want to keep them for your future career, you can just get a tub and store all of them back to back to back, and they take up less room. Well, I think that's it for this video. My throat's getting kind of scratchy, so I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. Thanks and giggum for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye!